A very good evening and thank you for joining GBS News at 9. My name is Stephen George and our sign language interpreter tonight is Alan Kiama. And now to our first story of the night. The President, William Samoei Ruto, has today handed over the first set of affordable housing at Mukuru slums in Nairobi. The project that was started in 2023, which was in the agenda of the Kenya Kwanza administration, is set to make changes and do away with slums in the country. The President has also expressed his gratitude and happiness, stating that his administration has achieved its dream, as Davis Karani reports.
Nyinyi mko na furaha, lakini mimi niko na furaha zaidi yenu. Mimi niko na furaha zaidi yenu kwa sababu ndoto yangu leo imetimia, ya kwamba inawezekana kumuinua mnyonge kutoka pale mavumbini na kumpandisha hapa kwenye gorofa aishi kama Wakenya wengine.
It was not only the happiness expressed by the head of state, but the joy also spread to Mukuru slum residents who got a chance to be home owners, rising from living in slums to owning a house.
Leo katika hapa Mukuru New Mukuru Estate tunawapatia funguo. Tunawapatia funguo. Sio ya kufungua mlango, sio ya kufungua nyumba, ya kufungua kwenu, ya kufungua kwako.
And bashing his political challengers, President William Ruto reassured them that he is in for work without a break, and for him, this is time to work and politics will come later.
Niwaulize, nyinyi watu wa hapa Nairobi, watu wa hapa Mukuru, Wakenya wenzangu, munasema tuendelee na kazi ama munataka tuelekee kwa siasa? Munasema tuendelee na kazi? Munasema ni kazi bila break? Kuna kundi ingine ya pale ya siasa mfululizo. Nyinyi ni watu wa kazi bila break ama siasa mfululizo? Munasema ni kazi?
The commissioning of this project was marked by handing over of keys and signing of the agreement between the new homeowners and the government.
Na kwenye mkataba huu pia CEO wa Affordable Housing Board anashuhudia.
Davis Karani, GBS News.
Moving on swiftly, in Siaya County, a political storm is brewing. Ugenya Member of Parliament David Ochieng has publicly accused Governor James Orengo of underperformance now, saying the governor has failed to transition from politics to leadership and is neglecting development in the county. Ochieng, who was speaking during a bursary disbursement event in Ugenya, warned that he would not stand by as the governor embarrasses the people of their home constituency.
In Siaya County, political temperatures are rising once again. Ugenya Member of Parliament David Ochieng has launched a scathing attack on Governor James Orengo, accusing him of underperformance since taking office. The Ugenya Member of Parliament is calling out the county boss, claiming that Orengo has failed to transition from his past role as a legislature to that of a county executive.
Our governor has never left the Senate in his mind. His mind remained the Senate. When he came to be governor here, he left his mind in the Senate. So has no plans for the county, has no plans for any ward. He's never called the leaders of CIA for a single meeting. And so we get embarrassed every time we're in public because of his outbursts and lack of plans. And that's what I've said, because he's from Ugenya. So we won't allow him to continue embarrassing us. And if he can't do that work, I'll take it and do it myself at the right time.
Speaking during a bursary disbursement event at Hafumbre and Siranga primary schools, where 7 million shillings were allocated through the Ugenya CDF, Ochieng didn't hold back. The outspoken Member of Parliament, who also leads the Movement for Democracy and Growth Party, accused Governor Orengo of political grandstanding and a lack of focus on development.
Our governor has underperformed. He goes around making noise to other politicians and he's not working himself. You know, when people have made peace and people want to work together, people are saying that at least for the next 2 years, can we forget about our political differences? Can we forget about our activism? Can we forget about what we think must happen politically and serve?
Governor Orengo is yet to respond to the allegations made by the legislature. Susan Nganga, GBS News.
Tensions ran high in Kasarani today as residents took to the streets to protest what they described as a growing wave of violent crime in the area. Demonstrators blocked roads, citing a surge in attacks that have claimed lives and left families devastated.
Mabwana zetu wakitoka asubuhi wakienda kazini, wakifika hapa wanauawa. Tumeitisha msaada muda mrefu sana, lakini hatuoni mafanikio. Kila wakati watoto wetu wakienda shuleni, wanaona watu wakiuawa hapa. Watoto wetu jamani, si watadhoofika kiakili, hata concentrate na masomo. Hatutakubali. Sisi kama wazazi tumechoka.
Kenya tunataka hapa au makarau hapa Kasarani na Hunters organize venye wataweka station hapa na iwe ina operate, watu wetu wasiuawe. Tuko na watoto mayatima, tuko na vijana waliuawa hapa.
Kenya's electoral readiness has come under fresh scrutiny, with Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi warning that delays in reconstituting the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, are threatening the country's electoral cycle and constitutional timelines. Susan Nganga with the report.
Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi is raising the alarm over what he calls deliberate interference in the process of reconstituting the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the IEBC.
IEBC undwe, IEBC ifanye kazi yake, Malava wapate by-election, wawe na MP wao, wale MCAs ambao hawako wapatikane katika taifa letu, senators wapatikane, tumalize hii maneno, we move forward.
His remarks come just days after the High Court stopped Parliament from vetting the IEBC nominees. The reason? Alleged legal missteps in the way the President and the selection panel handled the appointments. The court ruling has now put the brakes on the next phase, that is, appointing a new chairperson and 6 commissioners to the crucial electoral body. Mudavadi is warning that efforts to derail the process are chipping away at Kenya's democratic structures, and he says constitutional deadlines are now in danger.
So we want to tell the people that wacha kuogopa election by delaying IEBC. There are constituencies in this country that have been sitting without an MP for several months. That is disservice to those people because there is no IEBC. We cannot continue delaying the process of the IEBC because we are denying a lot of Kenyans their constitutional right to have representation. Tuache huu mchezo.
Without naming names, he accused certain individuals of working in the shadows, driven, he says, by fear of the next election cycle.
Lakini we are seeing people who are getting worried. They want to delay elections. They went to court when the first process started. They said they wanted conversation, a dialogue. Dialogue was held. The process has started again. Through proxy, the same fellows are going to court to delay. Surely, you cannot have an IEBC of all tribes. You can only have an IEBC of the nation.
The reconstitution of the IEBC is guided by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Act and Article 250 of the Constitution, which spells out the qualifications and procedure for appointing commissioners. And the bar is high. The chairperson of the IEBC must meet the threshold of a Supreme Court judge, highlighting just how significant the role is. Susan Nganga, GBS News, Nairobi.
Hope has been restored for hundreds of secondary school students in Alego Songa constituency who were sent home due to lack of school fees after the Constituency Development Fund Committee released over 12.8 million shillings in bursaries. The bursary disbursed on Monday at the constituency offices will benefit at least 1,000 students, according to CDF Chairman George Odede. He urged parents and guardians to collect the checks and deliver them to schools without delay to ensure learners resume their studies promptly.
Today, the committee for NGCDF Alego Songa is distributing checks for boarding secondary schools worth 12 million for over 1,290 students. It has taken time, though we had already distributed checks for day schools. Due to constraint of funds, we know that other categories will be given. In due course, immediately we get another remittance from the board. So we are now advising the parents that have not come for the checks to come and collect their checks today and take to schools.
In the month of March, I think we also released 31 million for the Form 4s, all Form 4s and full scholar. And I think in due course we'll also be releasing money for the colleges and universities. So we request whoever will pick the check today. Since we are late, I understand most of the students have been sent home, to ensure that these checks are well delivered to the schools and delivery note is brought back to the office. And we are going to be very strict on the dispatch. We must ensure that whoever will check the check will have to give us all your details so that we don't have an issue like last time. Otherwise, the patron ought to have been with us, and as you know, is busy. So we are doing this occasion with fullest blessings.
We are also taking this opportunity to thank sincerely our patron for the efforts that he makes to make sure that the process of awarding the bursary to the beneficiaries is a transparent process. It's a process that is overboard. It's a process that cannot be challenged because it is very tight, and them that are benefiting, please take the check to the schools so that our students can remain in schools.
Well, it is time for us to take a short break. Keep your feedback streaming to social media platform at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 2114. We'll be right back.
This is the Youth Hub show that gets a groove on. We have so many topics lined up for you guys.
Can you survive without internet?
No, I can't. Siwezi survive bila internet mimi.
Hii ni kama kuambia mtu mwenye alikuwa amezoea kushinda na nguo, mwambie toa nguo ushinde.
She's still like Tito who believes in miracles, eh?
Don't you believe in miracles?
Don't you believe in miracles?
If you're in love, akili inafungika na macho. You won't see anything negative in the relationship.
So my films, I can get funding to get a lot of time to do pre-production, so that when I'm shooting, costume ulishapanga, kila watu wako wanajua wanavaje, shooting location, like that process ya kwenda ku secure location, kwenda kwenye video, secure location, you get and like wow, hii location nikeza pata,
this is where it will all happen.
It makes you happy.
Kuwa na vitu mingi sana, mapanga le nini, tukisema hizo issues zimekuwa zinachocha sana, tunataka kutuka hivyo tu bila hii mambo ya mneti.
Are you ready? So guess the logo. Reveal.
Cadillac.
Cadillac. Kwa unasema Cadillac. Tunapenda watu. Yes. We love communicating. We love welcoming people.
Internet ilikuja kutotoa pangiza.
Water remains to be the world's most precious commodity, but is the most misused. In times of drought, saving water is the only solution to making sure you have it. Don't use the shower when water is scarce. Instead, use the basin while bathing. Repair all leaking taps and pipes. Wash your car only whenever necessary. If not, use a piece of cloth to wipe it clean. Do not use the hose pipe to water your garden. Instead, use the water you clean your vegetable with to water your flowers. Do not release wastewater into rivers. Note that your downstream is someone else's upstream. Of all the waters available on Earth, only 1% is fit for human consumption. Every drop counts.
Remove my skin and I won't cry. But you might. What am I? Are you still practicing art ukifanya your engineering? Umezimix ama umeenda tu fully on art? Sasa najua hebu kwanza tutajia because najua huwezi taja wote. Just some of the people wenye some of the celebs wenye umeweza ku reveal your art to them.
Jekroba bibi yake. Hiyo siku walifurahia mbaya. Na mimi nilikuwa emotional mbaya sana.
Lilia.
Go check that video guys. Nililia mbaya.
I was seeing kuna place ulikuwa unasema like Biendo alikusaidia sana in building your career. Unaweza tuambie hiyo moment when ilikuanga?
We
Everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back now to international news. Tensions are high as South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa arrives in Washington, D.C. for a closely watched meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. With diplomatic ties at their weakest in decades, the visit comes at a critical time for both nations. Trade, political tensions, and even Elon Musk are expected to be on the agenda. Here is the report.
South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa arrived in Washington on Monday, ahead of a crucial meeting with President Donald Trump. With relations between the two countries at a historic low, Ramaphosa is aiming to reset the agenda, focusing on trade, diplomacy, and rebuilding trust. Tensions have escalated under Trump, who cut aid, expelled South Africa's ambassador, and echoed false claims of a white genocide. Just last week, the U.S. granted refugee status to 59 white South Africans, further straining ties. Ramaphosa is also expected to explore business opportunities, particularly involving Elon Musk, the South African-born billionaire, and a close ally to Trump. Elvin Muyodi, GBS News.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu has defended the recent deportation of some high-profile Kenyan nationals, accusing unnamed foreign activists of attempting to destabilize their country internal affairs, asserting she pointed to a rising trend of foreign voices using digital media to comment on Tanzanian affairs, asserting that while freedom of expression is global, Tanzania's internal stability is not for negotiation. Davis Karani reports.
Tusiwe shamba la bibi kwamba kila mtu anaweza kuja akasema analolitaka, lipo Tanzania halipo, watu wakajisemea tu.
Tanzanian President Dr. Samia Suluhu has warned foreign activists from interfering with the affairs of her country and observed the policy of non-interference, which according to her, the Kenyan activists failed to observe and internalize.
Tumeanza kuona mtiririko au mwenendo wa wanaharakati ndani ya region yetu hii kuanza kuvamia na kuingilia mambo yetu huku. Sasa kama kwao wameshadhibitiwa, wasije kutuharibia huku. Tusitowe nafasi. Walishaharibu kwao, walishavuruga kwao.
Suluhu stated that the only country that has not been infiltrated by activists who, according to her, incite the public is Tanzania, and has urged all security apparatus to remain vigilant and ensure that no one will interfere with the affairs of their nation.
Walishaharibu kwao, walishavuruga kwao. Nchi iliyobaki haijaharibika. Watu wako na usalama na amani na utulivu ni hapa kwetu. Kuna majaribio kadhaa. Niwaombe sana vyombo vya ulinzi na usalama na nyinyi wasimamizi wa sera zetu nje kutoa nafasi kwa watovu wa adabu wa nchi nyingine kuja kutovuka hapa kwetu. Hapana. Nimeona klipu kadhaa za kunisema niko bias na nini. Nalofanya ni kulinda nchi yangu na ndio wajibu niliopewa.
Tanzania as a country has adopted more respective attitudes while making all sort of interventions to other countries, while the focus in general has always been helping the particular countries to settle their problems and not being biased or just joining activism as Kenyans have recently tried to do. And the act of banning Kenyan activists from entering into Tanzania as a nation complicates things further on how the relationship between the border nations will be.
We got there at 2:30 a.m. and that's when we were detained. From 2:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. We were not told why we were detained. Walikuwa wanasema kuna changamoto, but they didn't say exactly why.
Tunataka kuiambia serikali ya Tanzania wamwachilie huyu mwenzetu Boniface Mwangi haraka iwezekanavyo.
Hatutatoa nafasi kwa kiumbe yoyote kuja kutuvurugia hapa. Awe yupo ndani au anatoka nje. Hatutatoa hiyo nafasi.
Davis Karani.
A major case tied to one of the 20th century worst atrocities has taken a new turn. In France, judicial authorities have officially dropped their investigation into Agathe, the widow of Rwanda's former president, over her alleged role in 1994 genocide. As prosecutors push back with appeals, the decision is already stirring fresh debate over justice, accountability, and France's historical ties to the Rwandan conflict.
French judicial authorities have ended their long-running investigations into Agathe Habyarimana, the widow of Rwanda's former president Juvenal Habyarimana. Accused of complicity in the 1994 genocide that claimed around 800,000 lives, Agathe has been under legal scrutiny in France since 2008. Despite years of allegations and her suspected ties to the infamous Akazu, the inner circle of Hutu power believed to have planned the genocide, which she has consistently denied. Now 82, Agathe Habyarimana has lived in France without legal status since her evacuation from Rwanda during the genocide. France has repeatedly refused Rwanda's extradition requests, citing legal and humanitarian concerns. Although prosecutors sought to revive the case with fresh hearings as recent as 2022, the investigating judge declared the inquiry closed. The decision marks a controversial chapter in the pursuit of justice for one of the 20th century's darkest atrocities. Elvin Muyodi, GPS News.
We are taking a short break. Keep streaming into our social media platform at GBS TV Africa. We'll be right back.
How are you today? Because I am very, very happy. So we are on Kids Mind on GBS TV.
Today we're going to make ta-da! A boba tea letter set.
We are moving to singing class.
Skinamarinky dinky ding, skinamarinky doo. I love you.
The tortoise and the hare. Friends, do you know about this story?
Now you're finished to make.
loves everybody.
A student can transition from other curriculums, such as the Kenyan CBC curriculum, the Pearson EdXL curriculum, and the IB curriculum, to the Cambridge curriculum.
My name is Tracy Otonde. I'm Miss County Nairobi, and I'm also Miss Embakasi East. Modeling is an art by virtue of the model and by virtue of the designers. That if we look at modeling in terms of pageantry, you are showcasing yourself. You yourself is a work of art. You're a work of art, and you're showcasing everything that's in you and within you. And by virtue of the designer is because you keep showcasing the attires that they're made for you, and you have to look the part for you to be able to showcase what the designer was picturing. So yeah, modeling is an art.
Everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back now to more international news. Taiwan wants peace and dialogue with China, but the government must continue to strengthen the island defenses, President Lai said on Tuesday as he completed 1 year in office. China calls Lai a separatist and has rebuffed his multiple offers for talks. Lai rejects China's sovereignty claims over the democratic and separately governed island, saying only Taiwan's people can decide their future.
Taiwan is happy to have exchanges and cooperation with China as long as there is reciprocal dignity, using exchanges to replace hemming in, dialogue to replace confrontation. Taiwan loves peace. Taiwan society believes in the goodness of people. I too am committed to peace because peace is priceless and war has no winners. But when it comes to seeking peace, we cannot have dreams, no illusions. We will continue to strengthen our nation defense capabilities, whether it is through foreign military procurement. Secondly, we will continue to strengthen our economic development, grow in Taiwan, and sell our products to the world. We won't put all our eggs in one basket.
The U.S. Supreme Court has allowed the Trump administration to move forward with ending temporary protected status for approximately 350,000 Venezuelans living in the United States. This decision, issued in a brief and unsigned order on the 19th of May 2025, lifts a lower court's block on the administration's plan to terminate deportation protections and work permits for Venezuelan TPS holders. TPS is a humanitarian program that allows nationals from countries deemed unsafe due to conflict, natural disaster, or other emergencies to live and work legally in the U.S. The Biden administration had previously extended these protections for Venezuelans until October 2026, but the Trump administration sought to end them early, setting an expiration date of 7th 2025 of April. The Supreme Court's order does not provide a detailed explanation and does not specify when deportations might begin, leaving some ambiguity about the immediate impact. However, the ruling means Venezuelan TPS holders are now at risk of losing their legal status and work authorization and could face deportation while legal challenges continue in lower courts. Immigration advocates have described this as the largest scale single action in modern U.S. history to strip a group of non-citizens of their immigration status. Here is more on the story. Donald Trump said after his call with President Putin that Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations for a ceasefire. but the Kremlin said the process would take time, and the US president indicated he was not ready to join Europe with fresh sanctions to pressure Moscow. In a social media post, Trump said he relayed the plan to Ukraine's President Zelensky, as well as leaders of the European Union, France, Italy, Germany, and Finland in a group call following his session with the Russian leader. Here is more from our reporter, Paul Miner.
We just spent 2.5 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and I think some progress has been made.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday said Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire and an end to their 3-year-old war, after holding a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Hopefully we did something. We also spoke to the heads of most of the European nations, and we're trying to get that whole thing wrapped up. What a shame that it ever started in the first place.
After the call with Trump, Putin said the effort to end the war were generally on the right track.
The US president has expressed his position on the ceasefire, and I, for my part, also noted that Russia also favors a peaceful settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. We should determine the most effective ways to move towards peace. We agreed with the US president that Russia will suggest and is ready to work with the Ukrainian side on a memorandum on a possible future peace treaty, which defines several issues such as the principles of settlement, the term of a possible peace agreement, and so on, including a possible ceasefire for a certain time if the appropriate agreements are reached.
Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke to Trump one-on-one before the Putin call and then again afterwards in a conversation with other European leaders. He said that he hoped a high-level meeting with Russia, the US, and other nations could happen as soon as possible.
We are considering a meeting of all teams again. We would like it to be at a high level: American, Ukraine, Russia, Europe countries, and Great Britain. Such a meeting could take place in Turkey, the Vatican, or Switzerland.
Ukraine has said it is ready for a ceasefire now, while Russia has said conditions must be met first. Direct talks last week between Moscow and Kyiv had failed to achieve a truce.
Look, I'd say we're more than open to walking away. Look, I think one open question is Vladimir Putin serious about negotiating peace, right? He has made some concessions. He has taken some serious steps in these conversations, but we feel like, we're at a point where we're hitting an impasse, and that's why the president is talking to him on the phone. I think, honestly, that President Putin, he doesn't quite know how to get out of the war.
Trump, who has promised to bring a swift end to Europe's deadliest war since World War II, has repeatedly called for a ceasefire. Putin, whose forces control a 14th of Ukraine and are advancing, has stood firm on his conditions for ending the war, despite public and private pressure from Trump and repeated warnings from European powers. Reporting for GBS News, I'm Paul M. Miner.
Well, it is time for your most favorite segment of the show, the sports news. Let's get sporty. The Absa Kip Keino Classic Continental Tour, a premier one-day athletics championship, will make its return for the 6th edition this year in Nairobi. As part of the World Athletics Continental Tour Gold Series, the event attracts top-tier athletes from Africa and around the globe to compete at the highest level. Absa Bank Kenya has today reaffirmed its commitment towards advancing sports and athletics in the country, unveiling a total investment of 60 million shillings into the 2025 athletics calendar, which will also feature kids athletics as part of the World Athletics Program, which is designed to inspire the next generation of athletes. Now to our next story. Gor Mahia Football Club has made a surprise decision just weeks before the end of the season. The Kenyan champions have parted ways with their head coach Sinisa after only 3 months in charge. The move comes as the team enters the final stretch of a very tight race in the 2024-2025 FKF Premier League. Now, his assistants will now step in on an interim basis as Gor Mahia fights to defend their crown.
Gor Mahia have officially parted ways with Croatian head coach Sinis. The announcement was made on Monday, May 19th, with the club saying the decision was reached by martial agreement. With Mihik's time at Gor Mahia was short, just 3 months, but it came during a crucial period of the 2024-2025 FKF Premier League season. In the meantime, Mihik's 2 assistants will take over the team. They are expected to lead the side until the end of the season. It's a big moment for the club and one that could shape the outcome of the title race. Reporting for GBS, I'm Klein Mungai.
Manchester United have reportedly shifted focus to a Premier League striker as they aim to bolster their squad for next season after agreeing a deal with Wolves forward Matt Hughes. Now, United have deal in place for the Ghana who is set to leave Premier League rivals Wolves for the Red Devils at the end of the season after being convinced by Ruben Project with personal terms agreed, although the two clubs are yet to reach an agreement. However, that is not expected to be a problem as United need to activate his 62 million euros release clause, with only the payment formula set to take time to agree. In a major step towards strengthening ties between Africa and Europe, the Confederation of African Football has signed a landmark partnership with the European Commission. The agreement will see the EU sponsor several major tournaments, including the African Cup of Nations and Schools Football Championship, set to reach tens of thousands of young players across the continent. Here is more on the game-changing collaboration.
The Confederation of African Football (CAF) and the European Commission have joined forces in a major new partnership to boost football development across Africa. The European Union will sponsor the African Schools Football Championship, as well as the 2025 and the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations and this year's women's equivalent. The Women's Africa Cup of Nations will take place in July this year in Morocco, followed by the men's event in December. The agreement was signed by European Commissioner for International Partnerships Joseph Sikela and CAF President Patrice Motsepe in Cairo, Egypt. This new agreement is part of an initiative dubbed the Global Gateway Africa-Europe Investment Package. Through this initiative, the European Union has pledged to invest at least 150 billion euros in Africa by 2027. Other areas of European investment in Africa include energy transition and healthcare. The signature of this partnership also takes place as the two continents celebrate the 25th anniversary of the first European African Union Summit that took place in Cairo in 2000. Elvin Muyodi, GBS News.
Well, we've come to the end of the news bulletin. It is always a pleasure having you on board. Let's do this again, same time, same channel. My name is Stephen George. We make your news our business. Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Alan Kiama. Good night.
Every